Welcome to Make Pods Great Again. I'm your host, John, back for the new year with my girl, Nikki. Nikki, how are you?
I'm good. I feel like I haven't seen you in a million years and I missed you.
I
Happy
know.
New
And
Year.
now that I'm on death's bed, it's even better. You get
I
your time
thought,
in now.
I thought, before he kicks the bucket, we might as well hop back on and chat some.
We should probably bring Eric up to speed. So our guest today is Eric Roza. You guys all know him as the new CEO of CrossFit. Eric, how are you?
I'm doing well.
So
What's going on with the deathbed references?
Oh, I am officially positive for the coronavirus.
I was
And
afraid you might say that. How far in are you?
I am on day 5. So I've been blogging it every day on my page just to help people that CrossFit kind of understand what it does to your body. Cause I kept seeing posts from people going, "Oh, I'm on day 4 of Rona. I'm going to go do Murph." I'm like, "You're going to die. Don't do that shit. Like, that's
You're
terrible."
gonna
You know?
die.
So I've been kind of keeping track of my symptoms, my blood oxygen, my heart rate, and like posting that for everyone as well as the symptoms to give them an idea of what it feels like. It's a roller coaster, man. It's it's about as much fun as you've heard. And I'm lucky. I'm on the light end of it, I think.
Yeah, I only have a few close friends who have had it in a way that was symptomatic, but a lot of them have had very different experiences with it. Not just the level of severity or the duration, but like some of them was only pulmonary issues, and some of them didn't have any lung issues at all. It's very bizarre.
Yeah, it's been odd in that regard. Like heart rate and blood oxygen's been perfect the whole time. Again, thank God for CrossFit because it's great resting heart rate.
Humble brag.
Humble
Real
brag.
fit heart, just saying.
I
No
know.
big deal.
I love posting that number, man. It's like straight up 50 every time I'm doing it. I love it. Matter of fact, my daughter walked downstairs. I was going to get them tested. And I'm like, let's take yours before we go. And so she walks downstairs and I put it on her finger and it was like 116. I'm like, baby girl, you got to start working out. You were going downstairs with gravity and you're at 116. Like it's time to get you on the assault bike. But anyway, but it's like all the typical symptoms, fever, cough, congestion's been really light for me. So I haven't had any of the lung issues that, you hear, thank God. But just, it's weird. Not working out's weird. I'm so used to being in the gym every day. It's like, I don't know what to do with myself.
Are you going for walks? Or are you not even doing that?
I am. As a matter of fact, I've been kind of testing like things that make me feel better, things that make me feel worse. This thing wants you to lay down. That's the one thing I figured out like really early on. Like it wants you laying down doing nothing so it can kill you. Like that's, and so I get up.
Oh, you didn't mean it wants you laying down so you should listen to it. You're saying it wants you lay down so don't listen to it.
Right.
Yeah. It wants you laying down, I think to make you feel worse. So like anytime I started to feel bad, I would get up and walk around and I'd almost immediately feel better.
Oh,
I also found very quickly that you have to eat. Like I set a food timer and I eat every 2 hours now. And I feel infinitely better when I get food in me than when I haven't eaten in enough time. I got on my C2 bike yesterday and I biked really slow for like 15 minutes. Like I never got my heart rate over 70. And that I felt infinitely better after that. So I think, movement seems to be the key and just keeping food in you and lots of liquids and don't do anything dumb.
I also have a food timer set for every 2 hours, but that's just because I'm a bitch when I get hangry.
Do you actually have a food timer set?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
No,
I don't. John does. My husband wishes I would. Quick, get her some Wheat Thins. Hurry.
Yeah. Well, it's been a very interesting 5 days. So we'll see how the next 5 goes, and we'll talk about the Rona while we're on here. I did want to start. Eric, it's funny to get you on. So this podcast started about 1.5 years ago, and our first guest was previous CEO. So Greg came on. Was the very first guest, and so I went back and listened to the episode, and it was really funny. At some point during that interview, this is absolutely true, so everybody can go verify. I had done my research going in and had dug into his Twitter feed. And in it, he was ripping some CEO a new one over something. I forget what. And so I said to him in the interview, I'm like, Greg, please tweet more. I swear to God, I said this.
Oh my God, John, you're the
did.
reason.
I go, please tweet more.
It's
We love
totally
hearing
your
it.
fault.
And we had this big laugh on it. And I'm listening back to it in hindsight going, oh my God, I can't believe I said that. So Eric, please turn your Twitter off. Don't tweet. I'm just,
the
don't do it.
advice comes full circle.
I know it was such a weird moment to listen back, but we're really excited to get you on. And we know your time is valuable. So we'll try to not be too stupid like we are with everyone else.
I appreciate
I know
that.
we like thought of actual questions to make this a little bit more of not a formal interview, but like I am just so incredibly curious about how your life has been going. I mean, this whole past few months has been such a whirlwind for everyone within the CrossFit community, but no one more than you. And being at the helm of all of these changes, so many of which have been for the better. I mean, your entire world must have just gone totally upside down. How have things changed for you since, I would say since taking over, but honestly really more since the games, because that to me is such a flag in the sand of a successful moment and the things that you are trying to push forward and trying to accomplish.
Yeah. Well, I would say things continue changing. There's not like a steady. John and I both have cats trying to get in, so
they're allowed to come in. You can bring them in.
On that. It's been really crazy. You know, the level of day-to-day intensity is like something in the workplace. I don't just mean in the box, of course. Has been at a much more elevated level than I felt for years. And some of it's exhilarating, some of it's exhausting. Some of it, like any job, some of it's actually tedious, right? That would be the right description too. I have to remind people, say, like, do you pinch yourself sometimes and say, like, oh my God, you caught the car, like, this is it. This is what you wanted. My friends who have known me a long time have known this was a long time dream of mine. And the answer is, I seldom do that, and maybe I should do it more. I'm so kind of in the experience that I'm just moving forward, kind of. And probably like a lot of us, I maybe don't take as much time as I should to stop and smell the roses and go, wow, like, this is friggin' amazing.
Yeah.
I tend to put a lot of pressure on myself. And so there are good things about that, but the downside is, less time to kind of enjoy things, and nothing's ever good enough. So I'm a little bit of that tendency as a person, which I'm aware of, at least.
Yeah, I mean, how do I say this? This is the sort of like dream and goal for you, but at the same time, it's not necessarily a position that is entirely new. You've been at the helm of these larger type corporations in the past. So I'd be curious to know, outside of just the fact that, you love CrossFit, and so this is more of a passion than just work, how has it been a different experience running this organization from sort of your past and all of that experience that you bring to this, which is also incredibly important?
Well, I want to start with the former thing you just said, Nikki. I don't want to just dismiss that because it's obvious, but there's an interesting implication that I think permeates everything that's going on right now, is the fact that the reality is that in my previous jobs, it was increasingly not perfectly aligned with who I am and what I wanted to be and what I thought my purpose was. And, you especially start thinking about this stuff, if I look back over the last 3 years, I've turned 50, I've gotten divorced, I've lost both my parents, left the job I was running for 14 years or 12 years, a lot of life change, right? And, so you start thinking, like, what are you waiting for to do that which feels like it has the most purpose and meaning to you? And this was it. This is it. So once that happens, it does permeate or infiltrate everything, right? Because you remind yourself, look, this is it. I'm not trying to do this to get to something else on the other side. I'm not trying to do this to impress someone or to make a buck. I was fortunate in some previous opportunities where that wasn't the motivating factor for me. It hasn't been for a long time. And so there's no other reason to do this beyond doing it because I feel like this is what I should be doing. And so when you're kind of in touch with that level of clarity, which doesn't happen 24/7, but you have your moments, it's really invigorating and empowering. And I was talking to a friend about it last night. I work with kind of like an executive coach and life coach, right? Just a guy I've worked with for a long time who gives me perspective on life and on work and everything. And we went for a 2-hour walk in the dark last night. And by the way, I highly recommend that to everybody. I just
So
think
cool.
I'm always like a rain or shine kind of guy. I don't care how cold it is, how hot it is, whatever. I just really am a big believer in long walks by yourself with friends. And they don't always have to be athletic, and, just moving, kind of like John said, right? Just moving is just so good for you. But we went on a 2-hour walk last night, and he was asking me about the notion of like, when do I feel confident in the decisions I'm making? And when do I not feel confident in them? And I said, there are definitely times when I'm unsure, right? So, which you could call not quite confident. Is this the right thing? The other times, though, it's not so much that I feel a confidence. It's much more of a flow state. Like, this is what we're doing, right? So there are times when I question myself, or I'm like, shit, I'm not sure. But the alternative is not to say, oh, I feel confident. It's just being part of it. And I think that has a lot to do, again, with just the feeling that this is kind of what I'm meant to be doing, as far as I know. And so that's been the biggest change in life for me. I think mostly on the positive side. On the challenging side, which I knew coming in, and I think a lot of people who knew me, a lot of my closest friends were, I guess, somewhat worried about, while being happy for me, is the ability to draw boundaries around it is really tough for me. Like, it just wants to consume everything. And I'm a pretty motivated person. And so if you come from a mode where like you just want to continuously make things better, and you're completely passionate about this thing, you want to do it for 10 years, then putting guardrails around it and saying like, I'm truly going to unplug, and it's not the end of the world if we don't get to XYZ for a month or 2 months, or we push this goal and say we're going to do it in 2022, not 2021. Those kinds of decisions are more challenging maybe than when you're not as passionate about what you're doing, I guess.
How? I mean, like, that's like, you talk to volunteer coaches at their CrossFit gyms. Like, we cannot draw those boundaries ourselves. Anyone who's
Right.
in this and loves this the way that we do, like, I can't say no when someone's like, hey, do you want to like do this real quick for CrossFit? I have zero time in my schedule and I should be sleeping, but like, yes, I will definitely do it
Right.
because I love this. How in the heck do you find a way to separate? Because you have to for survival.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still learning. I think one is getting more comfortable saying no, and maybe letting people down, or feeling like you're going to let them down or disappoint them, and just saying, look, I'm not the right person to help you with this, or this sounds really cool, but I can't but I'm just not going to prioritize it right now. Those kinds of discussions are important. I don't think I fully appreciated. I think a lot about like, what is CrossFit? If you just ask that question, what is it? It's a company, it's a brand, it's a workout, it's a sport, it's a tribe, it's an ecosystem. You have all these different ways of describing it. One thing it definitely is an institution, right? And so many people millions of people have so much passion around it. And, and I don't think it's an exaggeration to say there are, 1 million, 2 million more people out there around the world who would say that CrossFit has changed their lives. And in fact, I estimate that over 100,000 people, including, the three of us on this call, make our living in the CrossFit ecosystem, right? So it's this institution where it's been life-changing. It's a source of income every day. It can be the best part of your day. It's transformed your body, maybe the way you think about life, maybe your mental state. There's so much passion. And so you have a right and a desire to have input into that and to have your thoughts heard. And, whether you're a cardiologist in Brazil, or whether you're, whether you're somebody who's a games masters athlete who has a point of view on how the scoring should be done or whatever, like, these are all different people who have different vantage points on CrossFit, and they deserve to be heard, and they have a lot of passion around it. And so trying to figure out a way to have people feel heard and have input without it all funneling through me, or frankly even through my team, is like, I think it's an ongoing challenge, because groove on talking to people. Like I love it, right? I really value connection with people, and I love being challenged. I love discussing ideas. I love a great debate, et cetera. And so, again, I don't have any answers on this. I just I'm on this journey right now. I have an amazing assistant, Parisa, who helps me, who you guys worked with in getting this schedule, but who's really helping me find the balance between being accessible, but also preserving time to re-energize. And I'll tell you one thing we're doing, and Parisa really drove this, and it's awesome. She's like, look, Eric, if you're leading, if you're building the world's leading platform for health, happiness, and performance, we have to look at your health, happiness, and performance, and you have to look at yourself, right? And kind of walk that talk. And I'm like, wow, that's a scary mirror to hold up right now, because what I've really been doing is saying, you know what? It's going to be complete insanity for 3 months or 6 months or 12 months or 18 months or whatever. And then things will cool down. But we all know what happens in that 3, 6, 12, 18 months, life can change dramatically. You can get hit by a bus. So I don't believe in living that way. I think you got to, seize the moment every day. So we're trying to do that now. And literally yesterday was day one, first day back, which I actually am reporting back to Parisa every night on what my energy level was like, how punctual or non-punctual I was to meetings, whether I felt like I had high impact and, was performing well or not. And then I'm also noting things about how much I slept, what were my interactions with my kids look like all kinds of things like that. So I'm just going to I need an accountability partner for stuff like that. I won't stick to something like that. You know what I mean?
You need Parisa at the end of the night to be like, Eric, your report, sir.
I mean, I'll show up to the gym in the morning. I'm good about that. But when it comes to tracking a bunch of other stuff, it's not something I'll make time for. So I'm 1 for 1 so far.
Nice.
I nailed it my first day. So
nice.
And by the way, I gave myself I think a 9 out of 10 on energy yesterday. And the day before, I hadn't been feeling very good because I was coming back from a week out of town with the kids, to-do list, totally overloaded, email, backed up a week, and it just was kind of de-energized on Sunday. And then yesterday morning, I woke up in a fantastic place. One thing that I've been conscious of for a long time, and I've really tried to formalize it over the last 3 to 6 months, is this notion of creating a buffer for myself in the morning. So there's a time I need to, even if I haven't slept enough, I'll do it at the expense of sleep. Now that's the experiment I'm doing. I'm going to take time and I'm going to, do some combination of journaling, meditation, playing the guitar, and and hopefully, ideally it's somewhere between 30 minutes and an hour. But my rule is, even if it's only 10 minutes, it's got to happen. And so, what I'm trying to measure now is, how does that correlate to how well that day goes? And I'm playing around with a bunch of stuff with my sleep in partnership with a great new medical practice that I'm seeing, just different habits around sleep. And the big one there that I'm trying for the first time is, don't read in bed anymore. Only sleep in bed. I didn't do well on that when I was on vacation in Florida, but when I'm home, I'm trying to really train myself. When you are in this room, you fucking sleep.
Yeah.
And I'm a big reader historically, and I have so little time now. I tend to only do it in the 5 minutes before bed, before I fall asleep. I'm you are not allowed to do that anymore.
Huh.
And
that is so interesting.
I don't know, I'll see how it works, but that's kind of the goal. And then similarly, when I wake up, no reading in bed, even on a weekend or anything, get out it. You can read, but go to a different room. This is the room where your body learns to sleep. So I don't know how that's going to work, but I'm playing around with that right now too.
Damn, my sleep hygiene blows.
Yeah.
I'd be try not to watch an entire movie on your phone at 1 a.m. right before bed, in bed. Cool. That's where I'm at.
The night before last, I had slept really shitty the night before on Saturday night. So on Sunday night, I told the kids, and I have 4 kids, but 3 of them are at home with me half the time. And I said, we're going to bed. I want everybody in bed by 8:30, which, meant we kind of got there by 9. This was Sunday night. And I was in bed by 9:30, and I didn't check the computer after they went to bed. I didn't check email. And I slept till like 5, which was, so it was like actually a good amount of sleep, even though I, because I went to bed early and I felt great. I'm like, that's interesting. And then last night, put the kids to bed. I'm like, I got to send out these 3 emails. An hour and a half later, I'm like, it's after 11. I go to bed. I wake up at 4 in the morning, sitting there like, I got to go back to sleep. Half slept until 6, and then wasn't in that good a place. I'm like, I've only got 2 data points, but I'm drawing some kind of correlation here that get your ass to bed sooner, but then there's a consequence, because then I'd wake up with more stuff to have to deal with. So I don't know. Work in progress.
Being a human is hard.
It is. It's fun though.
I love the concept though, the morning journal. I'd start mine with a morning. Last year it was a gratitude post. This year it's uplift. Like I'm trying to find ways to uplift others and myself, like kind of
That's
the first,
awesome.
kind of my first step of the day. And then to your point, like I'm trying to be more mindful of finding time to play guitar, because that's a real passion for me. So it's something that helps me escape from work, and I hate to say escape from my kids, but you got to escape from that too.
Yeah.
You need you
Sometimes,
time.
And John, I think you and I, judging by our backgrounds, we have one of the same approaches, which is when my ex and I separated which is a little over 2 years ago. One of the things I did, as I said in my, my new whatever bachelor pad, one of the most important things is having guitars outside their cases, so that every time, and you can kind of see them there behind me. Every time I walk into my my core living area, my great room, whatever you want to call it, they're sitting there calling to me. And instead of being in cases, in closets, behind the closet door, which is where they were, and so then a week could go by and I wouldn't even think about it. But now it's like they're always there saying, "Hey, pick me up." I got one in my bedroom, but again, as we taled about, I'm trying not to do other things.
You are not allowed to play guitar in bed. Not allowed.
What are the 2 guitars? What are you playing?
You know what? I was a long time ago, I became an acoustic guy. I play with a lot of electric musicians, but I like to play the acoustic. And I was always a Martin guy.
Right.
And then through a weird confluence of events, 2 different friends who don't know each other gave me Gibson acoustics within 6 months of each other. It was so weird. No one's ever given me a guitar before. They were like 2 of the nicest gifts I've ever gotten. They were really touching. It was around the time one of my best friends were growing up, and my mom had just died, and he came out to be with me and said, "I'm buying you a new guitar. You're starting a new life, and with, as a single guy, and you deserve a new guitar." And that was super touching. And he got me the smaller of the 2 back there, one.
Oh, it's beautiful.
And then a friend who was a kind of a professional friend who was also a guitarist showed up one day, and he said, "I just want to thank you for everything in our relationship and how you've helped with my career, as a friend and advisor and all that." And he pulled out this unbelievable guitar, which has become kind of my main axe, which is the one.
The bigger one in the front.
The bigger one, and that's another Gibson. So they sound very different from each other, and I love playing them. And this room is really the cool room. I mean, you can see the ceiling, but it has a white oak floor and ceiling, and it just has amazing natural reverberation. So it just has a beautiful, warm sound, both for singing and playing. So it's a happy place for me. You can see a lot of trees and all that, a lot of windows. Very happy place for me.
Yeah, I've been playing Martin acoustic for some time. Probably similar story to some degree. When I got divorced, my dad had bought me a guitar when I was 12, and I'd had the same guitar for decades. And when I got divorced, I'm like, I'm gonna like really start in playing smartly, like really spend time doing it. And so I'm like, I'll go buy a nice guitar. So I went and I played Taylors and Martins and Gibsons, and I don't know if your experience with the guitars is like this, but sometimes you just find a guitar that just fits you, like you just put your hands on it, and yeah, it's like, I relate it to like, it's like your perfect pair of jeans. Like you just put it in your hands. You're like, oh my God, this is it, and it certainly wasn't the most expensive Martin on the wall, but it just fit. And man, I have loved that guitar. Like it gets unbelievable amount of play. And I have a ton of electrics here, but the Martin gets more play than anything else. It's like the easiest thing to pick up. It's your go-to. It's your kind of your comfort zone. And to the point of the disconnecting, like I'm able to pick it up and whatever I've worried about at work for the day, whether it's people that work for me or my kids, or even, crappy workouts at the gym, it just kind of melts away, and so I think
Yeah.
it's a great place to be to find time to do that. I wish more people would do it. I've been trying to encourage more people to do it because I think it's healthy, super healthy.
It is.
You
Yeah.
guys, can you guys play a song together?
Absolutely
I would
not.
love to hear you
Absolutely
guys
not.
play a song together. And was that a
Absolutely
tall
not.
ask for this podcast?
You know
I'm
what's
just
a good-
wondering.
You know what the good excuse for not doing that is? That you don't have perfect synchronicity with Zoom, so it'll be out of phase.
Yes.
Oh yeah, no, totally. We could never do that.
Exactly. Exactly.
No. Okay, well, I'm gonna email Parisa after this, and I'm gonna be like, Eric needs to unwind, and we need to schedule a musical Zoom call for the future, and it's gonna help him with his energy levels for the following day. So we'll do that in the future.
I say what we do is when and if we get a CrossFit Games in person again,
Yes.
I'll drive to I'll drive to Madison, which I do anyway. I'll bring my guitar. Eric, you bring one with you, or I'll bring two. You don't even have to travel with one, and we'll play there. How about that?
For sure,
Perfect.
100%. Yeah.
I love it.
Speaking of live games, we have an open coming up.
I'm
Right?
so excited.
Yeah. You know who else would be in for that, John? I know is Dan Bailey. He
Oh, totally.
he saw me playing the guitar in the Buttery Brothers thing they did on our L1, and he shot me a note. We haven't even met yet, but he's like, dude, that's so cool. I'm like, I'm really into guitar too, and
Yes.
that's awesome.
Have you heard him play? He's
I
a
haven't.
beautiful voice. Oh, he's great.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah.
I
I
can't.
would just like to also enter the guitar club for a moment. I played for 10 years. I'm just saying that out
Oh,
loud.
nice. And do you
I
still?
did. No, I stopped in college.
Dude, you wanna be pissed off? Nikki had a boyfriend who stole her American Strat,
That's why I stopped.
so she quit playing.
My ex-boyfriend stole my Strat.
Don't let him get you down. Don't let
I
them get you
know.
down.
Well, since then I've really enjoyed having nice long nails and pretty manicures, so I never went back. But yes, that is when I stopped. Womp womp.
Wah,
But
wah.
yeah, can we switch gears for a hot second, because I am beyond excited for the open coming up. And I shouldn't be. I always do the thing where I get like so excited and then I get so stressed, and then like every week it's happening, I'm like, I'm so excited it's here, and then every day that I do the workout, I'm like, oh, why do I do
And
this
do you
to
have,
myself?
Nikki, both of you, how do you handle your personal goals around the open? How do you think about that?
Yeah. Go first, Nikki.
For me, it always depends on the workouts. I don't find myself setting large overall goals like I just want to be better than last year. It's very workout specific. So, if it's like muscle ups are the bane of my existence, right? So if it's a muscle up workout, it's like, how am I going to hit these movements that I'm not so confident in? Or is it going to be better this year than last year? Am I going to set a PR on a very specific movement? So it's week to week for me with the goal setting.
That's a smart way to do it.
Yeah.
It's changed for me in the last couple of years based on my page, truthfully. In years past, I've always done it to compare my scores against previous years to see how I kind of stack up against my age group. In the last 3 years, I've scaled it. Now, I would argue I'm an RX athlete for my age group because I can do all the movements except for handstand walks. But I've chosen to scale mostly because I want people to know that scaling's not a crime. Like I get feedback from so many people that, they want to scale, but they're scared to because they're afraid people are going to make fun of them. And like, I'm trying to show them like scaling's really hard. Like these are not easy workouts scaled. Like some of the hardest workouts I've ever done were last year. Like I was so impressed with last year's programming. I went in thinking, all right, I'll scale. I'm probably the fittest I've ever been. It won't be that hard. And I nearly died like 4 or 5 times. Like it was so bad. But it was great by that, aspect. It was also great for me to see like kind of, how hard was I willing to push myself in these scaled workouts? And the answer was pretty damn hard. And I think a lot of people walked away from that thinking, all right, well, maybe I should rethink my training methods. Like I just don't want to come out of the open beat up like and ruin the rest of my year's training. I'm not competing. Like I'm not trying to go to the games or anything else. I want to feel good. I want to, 50 years old for God's sakes, so.
What about you, Eric?
Well, it's funny, right? This is my first time doing the open as someone where anyone other than me cared about my scores were. So there, depending how you look at it, that could be a whole new level of pressure. I'm trying to make it the opposite. I'm definitely a few years. It's been a few years, I think, since I've felt like I was in kind of peak CrossFit shape. I basically started to use CrossFit more to, just train for life, especially the last 2 years. It won't happen this year, but each of the last 2 years I skied about 50 days. And I just was very focused around skiing in the winter, right? During, as the open was getting started, and working out a lot less in the gym. And so until 2018, I was super, I don't know what the right term is, competitive with myself, and, relatively stressed about the open. And, I'd be pissed if when those heavy deadlifts came in before the handstand walk. I'm like, God damn it.
No
I knew I couldn't make it through those in time, post Diane and all that, to get to the handstand walk, which would be a relative strength for me. And sure enough, I didn't. Right. And then I think, Nikki, that's where your attitude is so much more healthy, right? To go like, look, this is what the draw is. I'm not the guy who's going to, I can't remember, what were they, 275, 285. I'm not the guy who's going to get done 30 of those fast. So I'm not going to get to the handstand walk. So that's cool. Let me enjoy it. So I think this year, because I don't have that heightened level of wanting to be uber competitive, I want to enjoy it this year. I think I'll do the work. I mean, my plan is to do the workouts RX and to enjoy them, and, push myself relatively hard, and try not to worry about it too much, and have fun. And I think I will, but again, admittedly, knowing that people will be checking out my score, like I'm highly confident that no one checked out my score over the last 5-6 years, whatever it's been. Right. So that's a different feeling. It is interesting and tempting because, we've basically expanded this year the number of people who will make the, what we're calling effectively the quarterfinals, right? The online qualifier that we've typically done this for masters. Now we're doing it for everybody, but in masters as well as others, it's kind of looks more like a bigger cut. I don't know if 10% is the exact right number. I'm not the expert on how everything's breaking down, but there will be significantly more masters athletes in every division who make it to the next round. And because of that, it's tempting for me to go, oh, I think that could happen this year still.
Oh,
given the
my
relaxation.
God.
And, and Dave eggs me on a little bit, and I'm like, just stop it. Right. Cause he also probably, I don't know if he knows entirely, but you could guess, given my body size, right? I weigh 162 pounds, probably guess what my strengths and weaknesses are. I'm like, is he going to intentionally program this so I get completely smoked?
Oh my God.
He won't do that. But it is funny because I can get sucked into that. Wow. It's really important to try to make the online qualifier, but I would not say that's not a goal for me. My goal is really to enjoy it and just give it a good run and have fun with it.
Yeah, you say that, and I say that too. And every time I'm like, I'm just gonna have fun. I'm just gonna move for 15 minutes. It's not a big deal. You can tell that to my tummy and the nervous poops that I get for like 4 days before every workout. Like, there's no way to calm my nerves, even when I set those goals.
Here's what I think. I think, like, it's always about the mental game, right? Everything, and becoming a better person. And I think doing the open is so good for us every year, right? To do this check-in, it's so fun. And I think if part of the open for me and for you, Nikki, for sure, John, it sounds like you've conquered that side of yourself, but like, for part of it for us is making sure we're prioritizing the enjoyment, because it's not worth, it's not worth spending, weeks out of the year stressed about that you didn't do well enough the prior week, or what the next week's going to bring. Like, life is too short for that. So you've got to enjoy it. I did this crazy hike in the Grand Canyon a couple of years ago with friends without kind of training. It was rim to rim to rim. So it was like 52 miles straight with a ton of elevation. And I just had this, and a couple of my buddies were running, right? They ran the whole thing and ran it.
Oh my God.
Times.
Who are your friends? Oh my God.
They're CrossFitters, but they're Boulder CrossFitters. So they got their gene too, right? And I hadn't trained at all, and my feet were all ripped up. I had just started doing backcountry skiing, and I'd ripped up my heels and had blisters starting it. And I just said to myself, okay, the rule is I don't care how long it takes. I have to enjoy, and I'm going to finish, and I have to enjoy it no matter what. Like, I'm like, that's the rule. That's where this, focus on every step has to be pure bliss. How are you going to make that happen, wise guy? So I think like an element like that, where you change the game you're playing a little bit, is for me, that can be very helpful. It's like, that's the game I'm playing. And that's the game I'm playing with the Open, is I want to test myself. I want to push myself hard. I want to feel good about how I did. I want to leave it all out on the floor relative to where I think my conditioning is right now. I may or may not redo some workouts. I don't think I will, but I don't put it out of the question that I would do that once or twice. My body doesn't tend to be one that loves to do the same workout 2 or 3 times in the same, 4-day period. But the win is really going to be having fun with it, right? Yeah. As well as doing that. That's my game.
I'll go on record, Eric. I did not get it out of my system. So I finished second worldwide, by the way, in the scale division. So wow. I did okay, but to your point, I redid the workouts like 2 or 3 times, and right. it was just as hard. But now that it's just occurred to me that I think we're in the same age division, I might need to RX.
Oh my God!
Maybe.
Did you hear him say? Years. It's been years since he's done this RX.
So we're just going to put more competition on ourselves.
I'm dead.
I know, maybe.
I know that it's a little bit, we don't have all the information yet, but can you speak at all to the accessibility of the Open this year? Just, the first time we're ever seeing sort of like a home option, an equipment-less option, obviously bringing COVID into the fold. We have to do what we can to make sure that everyone can participate.
Wow. I mean, there are so many changes this year to the Open, and I think some people will be like, oh my God, you have to change this many things at once. And the answer is you absolutely don't. But there are certain things that we really felt it was important to do. And then one of them became, be aware that, much of the world is likely still going to be shut down, right? And make it really hard for people to go into gyms, and so just a few things that we thought about. One is and I just kept pushing Dave and the team on this, start as late as possible, right? Mm-hmm. We have to reverse engineer into all our partners holding semifinal events and our contract with Madison. But every week that we push it back is, X million more vaccines and X million more city councils around the world. In the US, we tend to forget that, half or more of the Open participants, I think it could be 60% this year, are outside the US. And they have their own version of hell going on with the reality of COVID and also lockdown decisions. And, so we start as late as possible, have a home option, and then make it so you don't have to have equipment. Like, those were super important, right? And so we went through all kinds of permutations. So the first thing is it's a fairly limited equipment list, and we'll add a bit of equipment over the workouts, but initially, and Dave's talked about this, right? It's going to, we're really trying to make it so that this can be robust to any environment. We won't nail it, but we're really trying to do that. And part of it is there is a no equipment option that you can do anywhere. If you live in a 300 square foot apartment somewhere, or can only work out outside, there's going to be an Open workout for you that you can compete with people around the world at, and that it may have over 100,000 people doing it, which is super cool. But these are compromises, but I think we learn from them. It's like stage 1 of the games, massive compromise, but still really friggin' cool. Yeah. And I think we've learned from that, things will do differently, as a result in the future, even without COVID, right? So you just keep learning. So I think the first one is any stage of lockdown, any amount of equipment, you can play in the Open. That's a kind of a key thing. In terms of, and then I think this notion that, and Dave and I had a meeting of the minds on this immediately. We sat down with Justin and Jonathan was there, I think, and maybe a couple other people. And David Woods was there too. And we talked about, this was days after the announcement, the notion that we wanted more people to advance, basically the notion of a quarterfinals, right?
Love it.
And I was like, I talked about myself as an athlete, and I said, look, a couple of years ago when I just missed that 200 cutoff, and I missed it by one clean, it's like,
my heart.
And it was definitely my peak condition. So I was like, well, I can't complain because this is what I got, but I go like, I would have paid so much and been so excited to compete again, to fly somewhere or do it online, even though not with a goal of getting further, just because I felt like I had earned it, And so he's like, yeah, we really want to do that. So it was like kind of, we were on the same page. So this notion of like, this is what's so cool, right? 10% of people in every continent around the world, the top 10% are going to get to move to a quarterfinals. How cool is that? That the top 10% of people in Asia, top 10% of people in Latin America, top 10% of people in Oceania, Australia, New Zealand, et cetera, are going to be able to advance independent of what's going on with the rest of the world. Like that is so friggin' cool. So, I think that's another really great thing on the accessibility front. I think there are things like we've doubled down on our partnership with the Out Foundation. So we talked a lot about giving people an option to self-identify around, gender preference, gender identity beyond the, the male female cut we need to have for the, for the games kind of competition, and around, kind of all other aspects. And we just were like, we can, and race, all these kinds of ethnicity. And we were like, we don't want to go there right now, because then it feels like we're labeling people or recommending that they label themselves. And what was so great about the Out Foundation is that they have their own scoreboards that people opt into. So we've got a data feed going to them. So if you want to compete based on your gender identity or gender preference or both or whatever, you can do that in the games, which is super cool via the Out Foundation. And then we brought in the adaptive athlete thing as well, which is really cool. And that's not, if you look at that purely like numerically, financially, that's not the thing you would do, right? Because it actually it's taking a bunch of resource for us. It's very complex to get all the adaptive divisions right, and then all the programming, scaled appropriately. But you do it because it's basically sending a sign, right, to everyone that we want to send it to, that CrossFit is truly for everyone. And it's really, really cool. So the team kind of asked me early on, they said, look, I'm like, how many people does this impact? They're like, it's not a big number of people. It's really just walking our talk and showing very, very concretely what we stand for here, that CrossFit is accessible to everyone. So we're super excited. There's some markets in the world where we're experimenting for the first time with a slightly lower price point, markets that have a lot of CrossFitters and a very low GDP per capita. And you might say like, hey, is like $20 is nothing. But the reality is, if the annual household income is below $5,000, it turns out $20 is a lot.
It is a lot. Yep.
It is a lot, right? So now, because you're making $100 a week or whatever, right? It really matters. And so we're experimenting with so many different things. It's stressing the shit out of everybody at CrossFit.
Sure.
Now. We have so much. We have so many great engineers and media people and people working on programming. I told everybody to try to unplug the week between Christmas and New Year's, and half of the team kind of laughed and said, not even close.
Right.
Like, we just literally can't do it right now. So people are working their butts off to kind of get this going. We still have no secret to any of us who have been in the open before. We still have a pretty crappy legacy technology platform to run the open in the games. And my commitment to everybody right now is, by this time next year, it's going to be world class. It's going to be frigging phenomenal. We'll have an amazing new app for it. Like, it's just going to be great on so many dimensions. And it's going to permit us to do a lot more virtual competitions, which is a big thing we're hearing from affiliate owners that they want to see. But right now we have, a legacy platform, and we've all experienced for ourselves various ways in which it's clunky and so on. But we have a team that's just been doing a great job. One of the key things was that we've been very dependent on external consultants to basically get the platform ready for the open every year. And this year we have they're great external consultants. They've been really helpful, but we're really reducing our dependency on them. And this is the last year where we'll need their help to do this. I got a scoop for you. Yesterday,
Yes.
CrossFit's new chief technology and chief product officer started. And I'm so excited.
Wow.
We have a fantastic world-class guy named Jeremy Landis who just joined the team, and you're the first to hear it outside of the
Wow.
team members yesterday. And so this is like high on his list. Like, we're going to make this thing world-class, and it's really exciting.
What's Jeremy's Fran time?
Well, that's an interesting question. Jeremy is brand new to CrossFit.
Yay!
But he did come, a month and a half ago, whatever it was, he did come to Boulder and he got his level 1 credential.
All right.
With the rest, I had our whole executive team, right, get our level 1 credential. That's something you just do now when you're leading CrossFit, is you got to get your level 1 credential, right?
Oh my goodness.
And so Jeremy was like, great sport. He came in and got that, having, he actually, like, I'm watching like his overhead squat with the PVC, in the L1. And I'm like, man, that took me a year plus to look like that.
Do you not hate those people? Oh,
I know. I'm like, oh, that's what below parallel looks like. Oh, that's pretty cool.
whatever, Jeremy. God.
Jeremy.
And he pushed it pretty hard on the, on the 2 WODs. Like he worked hard. It was really cool. Yeah. He's definitely an athlete. I don't know that he's done a ton of strength training historically. He's clearly done a little bit, but he's got good mobility. He's got great cardio because he was at altitude. He lives in New York City, so he was a mile above his home altitude. And he did.
Who are the coaches for the executive L1 seminar?
We had a great group of people. Let me make sure. I know I'm going to forget somebody now. We had Chuck.
Yes.
We had Denise. We had Jenny, and we had Leah. I think that's it. Oh my God.
Bring an all-star crew. How cool.
I hope I'm not forgetting somebody.
So fun.
Please forgive me if I'm forgetting you. I posted a picture on Instagram. I should look at it right now. I have my phone next to me. So if I forgot somebody, I'm so sorry.
How fun.
They were phenomenal.
Awesome. But
it was so cool for me because we did it at my gym, the gym I own, CrossFit Sanitas, and it was just so cool. And my ex Melissa, who's still a very good friend and who really leads the gym. I'm just window dressing, but she was there. It was a really awesome. My oldest son, who's 16, and has some special needs, participated in some of it. And we invited some good local friends. So it was like a friends and family and CrossFit X team kind of L1. It was really special.
Wow, that is so great.
And we did, what was really cool is with these great friends who are the 2 founders of Wild Health, who are great CrossFit doctors. They're guys, they practice what they preach, Matt Dawson and Mike Mallon. And they were there. Julie Fouché was there. She was not coaching or participating, but she was there for moral support and as a friend. And it was such a cool thing. But the Wild Health guys brought rapid response COVID tests. So we were able to get everybody kind of inside our little bubble for it.
Sick.
It was an absolute, and then the Buttery brothers did a great little, mini documentary on it. It was one of the absolute highlights of my time, with CrossFit so far. I mean, it was just cool. It was like almost like a life highlight. It was so cool. And because everybody was all COVID tested and all that, I had a subset of them came to dinner at my house. It was just such a cool, fun thing to do. And the participants were from 16 to 64 in the class too.
Wow.
It's fantastic. Hey, Eric, I wanted to circle back to something you said. It got my mind working when you were talking about the Out Foundation. Will's a friend of mine, and they're doing great work. And so it was exciting to hear what you're doing with them through the open and linking to their site. Someone had asked me the other day, I was doing a Q&A in my story, and they were asking, what are the 2 or 3 things you'd like to see CrossFit do moving forward? And one of them was, I said, I'd like to see or can see you guys continue to put a lot of effort into DEI early on and drive that part of the business. And I was bluntly kind of shocked at some of the responses I got within the community. There seems to be a divide really around maybe an understanding of what diversity, equity, and inclusion is. And so I guess I just wanted to hear from you, why has that been so important to you early on in this journey to get that to the forefront of what you're doing?
I want to give that its due, and our time's up. So I'm going to push back my next meeting by 10 minutes. Well, let me see. I might even be able to give you 15. Let me just
We
look.
are officially ruining the CrossFit schedule right now.
No,
Thank you, Eric.
It's such an important question. And I was thinking it's such a great conversation. I just looked at the time and was like, oh shit. Clearly, the only thing I'm pissed at you guys about now is you're screwing out my punctuality score for the day. I just told you I'm lacking punctuality for the first time in my life.
I will email Parisa and I will tell her
No,
this is our
all
fault.
I'm an internal locus of control guy. It's all on me.
If anyone wonders why like CrossFit didn't like finish a bunch of shit this quarter, it's because we kept Eric on this call.
No, it's because it was
We look so much alike. I could just FaceTime her and tell her it was my fault.
Listen, so sorry.
John, that's been a little bit of my experience too. What I've learned, I've not been a big social media guy. Now I'm posting a bit because it's, part of the deal. And, Instagram is such an important venue to talk directly to people in our community. And I'm enjoying it, but it's still not something that, comes naturally to me. But I would initially like read all the posts and be like, oh my gosh, like what's, kind of getting it from both sides, right? Getting like having one side feeling you haven't done enough and having the other side saying, is this just a sellout? Is this, and so I think I have a few takeaways here. One, the most important is you can't please everyone. And so if you choose to actually instead like listen to people who feel like they authentically have something to contribute to the discussion, you don't have to take their advice. And when people seem like there's almost too much of an agenda, or it's rote, or it's not, it's not going to help advance your thinking, I kind of tune it out as noise and try to really tune into what's authentic to me and what do I believe. And then I think that I have the courage of my convictions to have many, even most people not agree with me. And I'm willing to explain myself and I'm willing to be challenged. But I'll still feel, I think, like I did the best I could and I kind of walked in my own truth. And so, the commitment, so there are two ways to take this, like CrossFit's got a diversity, equity, inclusion problem. One way to take it, which is the way I take it, is society continues to evolve and change. And we all have a responsibility to tune into what's going on right now and looking at it. How does that impact what we used to think? And if warranted, change some things, not due to the pressure, because the pressure really doesn't work that well for me. I'm a pretty, I'm pretty self-motivated guy. Like you can try to pressure me, but that's probably not going to be the best way to have impact with me. It's going to be much more likely to have impact if you can move me to your way of thinking through a thoughtful, caring discourse that's very, very well backed intellectually and data driven and, and all these kinds of things. And so like, I've changed my point of view on a lot of things. So I just say that, yeah, everyone needs to focus on these things right now. It doesn't mean go for the red stamp seal of housekeeping approval that certain people are demanding. It means to just look at what do you want to show up like in the world and what do you believe in, right? And so for me, it was really important. One of my first hires was to take Trish Gerlitz, who's been a longtime friend and colleague for many years, for 14 years now, and convince her to leave her great job and come in as our leader of culture and inclusion right from the beginning, right? And I knew I could trust her to not, she wasn't there to be an instrument of what I thought. She was there to go really deep, to have a background in it already, and to help me think about this and help us decide what we should do. And not try to please everybody, but just to make sure we were doing what we could do to say, like, look, if we know that our mission is to be the world's leading platform for health, happiness, and performance, we got to be thinking about the whole world, and we got to be doing what we can to offer a platform that can help a lot of them be healthier and happier, right? And that's just a given. So if people feel excluded from that for whatever reason, we need to really examine, is that something that we can improve upon? And a lot of cases it is. But I think, John, the misconception that I think you are referencing is when people think like, oh, that's a sellout, or it's somehow trying to placate people, or it's an admission that we've been doing something wrong, and we're like, that's not at all what it is. But it's a continuous quest to make ourselves better humans and higher performing, which is what we're doing in the gym. It's what we're all in this for anyway. And so like I have zero expertise in this area. I don't pretend to. I'm just fumbling along like everybody else, trying to get a few, trying to get a few things right along the way. But I think I've gotten better again as I've learned the ways of social media of just like, I just don't read most of the posts, right? People can disagree and they can talk about, everything from we're selling out to we didn't do enough of this or that, to there's a white savior complex or whatever things come up. Like they're welcome to have those points of view. And we're going to be the kind of place where people can say what they want to say. And unless it's true hate speech, we're not going to block them from saying it, but we're not necessarily going to respond to it or alter the course of what we're doing unless it has real merit in our view for what we're trying to do and what we're trying to achieve. That's a long-winded answer. I don't know if that's helpful at all.
No, it's very helpful. I find we've got kind of bomb throwers on both sides that, you say the word inclusion, which is the word I used the other day, and some guy blew me up saying, how dare you call CrossFit racist? I'm like, all right, I didn't come close to calling anyone racist. Like inclusion isn't always about race. It could be your gym doesn't have a handicap ramp. Like,
or how about you speak English all the time to 60% of your affiliates and members and people who love CrossFit, and you speak English to all of them without even a translation option. Like that, to me, I was like, wow, this is a big example of like having a little more sensitivity to like the fact that, again, if you're global, you have to think about the fact that, I don't even know what the number is, but 10% or less of the world is English as a first language.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't go all the way, but like, let's do more to come to people in ways that work for them. Whether again, I'm not going to go through all the different dimensions of inclusion because you'll definitely leave some out then.
As an ESL baby, I approve this message.
Do you ever foresee a time where you guys would be passing down maybe HR training, sensitivity training, diversity, classes directly to the affiliates, much like you do a level 1?
I don't know. I mean, those are the kinds of things we think about. I don't know enough. I know enough to know from the corporate world that studies I've seen have shown that some of those classes don't actually have a big impact. They're more of a check on the way people, see things. But I don't know really what I'm talking about there. I've just heard this from others. And so to the extent we do something, and this is my commitment, by the way, across the board on everything, and I want to be challenged, when I violate it. I'm sure we'll make some missteps. I'm not going to do anything in check the box mode. If we do something, we're going to do something because we believe it can be really impactful and make, just make CrossFit better. So there's people leaning us to say like, yeah, put inclusion curriculum into the L1 or launch a separate track. Those things we're open to it. What we're really doing, right, is we're pulling together, and I think we'll finalize it in the next few weeks, our first kind of DEI council that will be people who don't actually work for us, but are really invested in the CrossFit ecosystem. And they will help point us to the things that are most important for us to focus on, with initially primarily a US lens, which, you could challenge, by the way, but we got to start to bite off pieces of the elephant and make some progress. And then we will expand that globally. And so you will see us working on some key initiatives around that beyond the things we've already done, heavily informed by the research, opinions, and work of a very diverse group of advisors that we're pulling together for this standing council. And that I can't imagine, you can't foresee not having some body like that to help us think about things like that.
Well, we want to be respectful of your time, but I will give you really quick feedback. The commercials you guys ran at the games were spectacular from a diversity and inclusion standpoint. And I lurked on your website a little bit this morning, and you guys have done tremendous work even in changing the visibility there. I mean, representation matters to people, and the website alone looks infinitely different than it did a year ago.
Yeah.
And I think that's big work. It doesn't go unnoticed from the community. So thank you for what you guys are doing.
Yeah. I got great.
I appreciate you saying that, John.
I
Thank
got
you.
great feedback too on the stories and things that we ran in when we did phase 1 of the games, and we did the pre-show, and we had some of those similar stories running on our stream. Same kind of feedback from across the
People
board. It
love
was
those.
great to
And
see.
you guys know, as you both know, because you've been around for a while, like a lot of that stuff was not necessarily new content, right? There's so much great stuff there, which is, to your point, John, is I'm not there's no need to go there. Has CrossFit historically been racist or sexist or anything else-ist? We have absolutely had aspects of that, just like everyone else. And in most cases at our best, we haven't remotely been that. And so the goal is, I just keep reminding people, the goal is just to be at our best more often. We know what that looks like. And also to just keep evolving and to just, feel, again, I'm not going to feel like we're placating anybody or checking the box. Like I just won't be in that position. We talked about this, just bringing it full circle as we end the front of the call, as I think about the legacy that I want to leave here. It's one of just really being authentic in all the decision making, right? It's not one of being perfect. I will screw up many decisions along the way. And even the ones that I feel are good, other people might feel I've screwed up. That's a given. Let's plan for that. But I'm going to authentically try to do what we think is right, keep learning, get a lot of input, try to keep getting better, and have, smarter and better people around me who feel comfortable, giving me very brutal feedback, which happens every day.
It's great stuff.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, thank you for coming on. Next time we have you on, we're going to do a music episode. So we didn't
I'm
get
so
to it
ready.
today.
Yeah, we'll do it in person. I'm in.
We'll bring guitars. We're going to talk about musical influences. We'll play some music. If Dan Bailey shows up, I'll have the smallest biceps in the group. It'll be great.
Thank you so much
Thanks
for
to
your
both
time,
of you.
Eric. We so appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. And John, good luck with the recovery.
Thanks. I appreciate it. And for everyone listening, we appreciate you guys joining us, and we'll chat with you guys soon.